It's easy to think the world's next great tech companies will come from Silicon Valley, New York, or Toronto. But innovators from around the world beg to differ, and I'm out to discover who they are and where they're from. From Addis to Jakarta, from Dhaka to Bogota, I'm Dan Herman, and this is their world, our future. Indonesia and its capital Jakarta is one of those places you either love or hate. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's very full of people. In fact, the country's home to over 270 million people, 60% of whom are under 40, and with over 150 million internet users, there's a good reason that Goldman Sachs calls it the next hotspot for tech in Asia. One of the people trying to capture this market and others is Cleosent Randing, who from his headquarters in the capital Jakarta is building PasarPolis, an insurance technology startup that just raised over $50 million to continue his quest of making insurance work for the uninsured. You guys are building a story in Jakarta, Indonesia, that you're a big deal in a certain part of the world, and I'd love to share this story with Canadians, with North Americans. You've raised recently a Series B, 54 million. You've got, if I read the numbers correctly, hundreds of millions of people are signing up policies with you. Tell us, what is PasarPolis? Where did this idea come from of providing kind of flexible insurance policies?
Yeah. No, I think basically PasarPolis really is founded around how we bridge the uninsured towards insurance protection. And I think that when we see this in Indonesia being insurance penetration is really low, in Southeast Asia it is only less than 3%. I think it's really an interesting time and age whereby we believe that people who needs insurance the most don't have access to insurance. So what PasarPolis is founded, and the reason we want to do this is because we do believe that how can we improve the affordability, the accessibility of insurance towards the uninsured or the underinsured. So we think there is a massive space, not just in terms of that it is a sustainable business, but to do social good for a lot of people. And I think that how can we increase the awareness and demand. And I think COVID, you mentioned about COVID just before this, I think COVID-19 pandemic has increased awareness and demand for insurance, and therefore making insurtech specifically indispensable in the future. And I think that how we want to be relevant for today's Southeast Asia digitally savvy consumers. And becoming Southeast Asia's most trusted industry-leading insurance brand, a brand that is loved by all, is something that we are called to do. And I think that's really why we started PasarPolis and what keeps us awake at night.
No, it's an incredible story. Now, insurance isn't new. It's one of the oldest industries around. When I was in Jakarta a couple of years ago and across Southeast Asia, there are lots of insurance companies. None of them seem to be following the growth trajectory that you have. What's special about what PasarPolis offers?
When we started this, we don't know anything about insurance. And I think that is a plus thing, because that gives us the ability to really rethink insurance from the ground up, right? And that humbleness and I guess the idea that, hey, we don't know about this, and we want to try to figure out how to make it work. The culture of learning, and we definitely screw up more than we would like to, as I mentioned always. And I think that we want to learn from our mistakes, because I do believe that the culture in the companies, that I think we learn from our mistakes, not from our successes. And that is extremely important to us as we grow and really provide more access to first-time buyers of insurance. We believe that how can we make insurance frictionless and seamless to buy. And not just to buy, but also to claim. And that really drives us creating more and more innovation to really enable millions and billions of customers to buy insurance and claims super fast, right? Second is that how we are building upon our insurance, basically insurance product intelligence, and therefore really customizing product that are relevant for today's digital savvy customer in Indonesia. For example, we work with Gojek that really built product for their drivers, right? And previously, these drivers have never have access to insurance before. But we built product that covers their things, their belongings, their basically even their life, even the child education. Really understanding that consumers and building the right insurance product for a price of $1 a month for these Gojek drivers. In Indonesia, if you drive 100 kilometers, people are speaking different languages and things like that, right? So these are not, a lot of people, I think, in North America thinks of Asia as one country. It is not, right? And even Southeast Asia is not one country. And I think that local fabric and understanding where we are founded by Indonesian people, the best and brightest in Indonesia, really is important. And I think that is another factor whereby we then build product from the ground up for Indonesia.
If I understand it correctly, the flexible model you're trying to build around insurance is actually what I would expect on the trajectory of technology that my two kids, who today are, tiny little guys, but I would expect that this type of product is what they'll be able to get here in Canada, and that's when I ask about your global aspirations, I have trouble thinking that there's a real boundary to what you're building.
We try to find countries that are most relevant to us, and Southeast Asia is that. When you look at Vietnam and Thailand, I think that market are familiar to us. Having said that, I think the product we are building is definitely not a product that are localized only, right? Because the technology we build are made for global, and we do write, for example, last year in 2019, 650 million insurance policies. We want to build something for a global ecosystem. But I think on the other hand, we do believe that in this part of the world, we get our work cut out for us, right? Because I think there's just so much impact that we can do here within this region, right? And I think that really is something that will be our focus for now, is that how can we move Southeast Asia forward, because people live a worry-free life.
You mentioned your background's not in insurance. I'm not sure if you were a Gojek driver at one point. How did you realize this was a problem that was waiting to be solved?
When you look at insurance specifically, a lot of the biggest firms in insurance are firms that underwrite horse carriages in London. And that's an interesting phenomenon, right? Is that these are the people that underwrite horse carriages back then in London in 1900, right? And so how can we create innovation, just like what Amazon is doing towards Macy's, there's Hudson Bay, all this company, right? And I think that's what we are keen to do. How can we make insurance for the millennials, or even for your younger brothers and sisters, and also for your children, right? That is the thinking that we have. How can we make insurance palatable for the digital or millennial consumers?
Having visited Jakarta, and the nickname Big Durian, it fits because it's hot, it's smelly, it's packed, but I loved it. But what's it like building a company there?
Well, I think it's always been challenging, and I think that's why we do believe that, doing a startup, you need something, a driver more than just money. So I think it's just too hard if it is just for money. I think that you want to see how we can bridge the gap of underinsured. I think that, and as I mentioned, I try to really say to a lot of our management team that first and foremost, you have to believe in what we are doing, because I think that is the core. And I think that, doing a startup is just way too hard if you're just thinking about the money and all this.
You could have theoretically stayed in Vancouver. You based on your studies, you could have gotten any jobs you wanted. Instead, you chose to go back to Jakarta. Why?
Truly, what I see is that the opportunity in Southeast Asia, and I think the opportunity, what I mean by success, is not from the lens of just financial, but I think the opportunity to create meaningful impact. And I think that's very important and prevalent in this part of the world. We can do and get a job and maybe, basically live a life in Vancouver, definitely. But I think more than that is that the impact and how we are creating. And as I say, doing a startup in this part of the world is hard. It's very hard. And that's why you need more than just, a thinking of, hey, I want to, find me a get rich quick kind of scheme, right? But I think that it is about, how we can create something that's impacting more and more people. And we are very fortunate and lucky the fact that we can impact, millions of people in this part of the world. And we think that it's just a start, right? Because it is just a start, right? And I think it's always day one.
Cleosent and his team are on track to sell 1 billion policies. That's something that most of the insurance industry only dreams of. It's an awesome story, but it begs a really big question for companies in North America. How do you get great talent to come here if the challenge and opportunity somewhere else is so much bigger and so much more exciting? And maybe even more importantly, how do you compete to capture these new markets if you don't have the people who understand them working for you? That's it for today. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time for more of Their World, Our Future.